And welcome back to the NHL Best Bets. Yesterday there were again very good games provided for us by NHL. We had a few picks like we usually have, and here are the games that we selected. Winnipeg won Montreal quite clearly at the end. Montreal and especially Joel Armia tried a bit at the beginning, but then Winnipeg showed why they are this time better team than Montreal. I think Montreal has more issues than a coach in their playing, and it may take a while to benefit, if there will be any benefits for the coaching change. And then other game, Boston visited Islanders, a bit similar game. Boston was leading at the beginning, but that was very quickly wiped out by Islanders, and then third period didn't interest Boston too much. End result was 7-2 for Islanders. So two good bigs, two good victories.
Yeah, fantastic picks from us, an excellent value on both of those. A lot of plus odds there. In New York, Boston came in the game really strong, and they could have led the game early on more than by one goal, but the Islanders fought back, and in the end, then in the third period, it was all Islanders. So Boston kind of let go a little bit after going down early in the third period. So 7-2 final result for the Islanders. Something very unheard of from Boston's side, these sort of results. But you have to take sometimes the big losses in order to bounce back, and maybe tonight they will. But very good pick from us. We saw how competitive Islanders can be, even against the best team, probably the best team in their division. So never count out the Islanders, especially with Barry Trotz as a head coach. They know what they're doing, and their system is working perfectly at the moment. And then let's just take a look at the Canadiens' effort in Winnipeg. 2 goals by Joel Armia early on, but that's it. Then it was all Winnipeg. Some bigger issues must be there with Montreal, or maybe that's their real level, like we've been saying all along.
Yeah. Yesterday I think was a pretty good day for the simulations as well. We discussed a few other games in our previous video. Ottawa demolished Calgary by winning 6-1. There were pretty good odds for the home team. And then the Chicago Blackhawks took another victory on the road against Columbus by very typical game for these two teams. Victory 2-0. This time it was Malcolm Subban who had a shutout against Columbus.
Yeah, most of the games went exactly as we expected. One of those being the John Tortorella matchup again against the Chicago. Like you said, Malcolm Subban now in the goal. Extremely good game from him again. So they have a very good situation now in the goal, in a position that we thought, and many thought, that would be a problematic one for Chicago Blackhawks. Now they have 2 young goaltenders competing and playing extremely well. So it's easy for Chicago now to rely on their goalkeeper and get these, let's say, a little bit dirty victories like this one. It was all even until the third period, and then basically a 1-goal game after that. So very good win, very good odds for Chicago, and good prediction by the computer. And similarly, like we mentioned in Ottawa, never count out any team in the NHL, no matter how bad it is. Detroit showed as well that they shouldn't be underestimated. But Ottawa, absolutely fantastic game against Calgary. Of course, Calgary a little bit disappointing, but it was Ottawa was really good in this. They gained a lot of confidence after beating the Canadiens, and they played now as they can, a young team, really energetic. Throwing bodies around and like this sort of game, and it's a very hard team to beat, especially with all this energy going around, and they have nothing to lose. So let's keep an eye out on these underdog bets for Ottawa.
And then maybe the top game of the night, Tampa Bay Lightning took another victory against Carolina. This time it was 3-1 score, and it wasn't Vasilevsky who was in goal, but McElhenney saved all except one shot there in this top teams of the West matchup.
Yeah, dare I
Or
say
East.
that dare I say that it was maybe even a little bit boring matchup, but both teams really good teams, of course, the top in their division. But when it happened, like when Tampa Bay is playing this well, is such a hard team to play against, and they showed that they don't need to stretch, they don't need to score 6 goals to win. They can just grind it out and they can win the games. They can beat any team in this league, and of course now with this division setup, they will face the same teams all over again. So they do have the number of each and every team of this division. Let's see if anyone can actually beat them. Maybe once in a while, but I mean in a longer term that Tampa Bay probably won't lose 2 games in a row until the end of the season.
Yep. Tonight there is only 3 games on the table, and against our standard approach, we decided that there's not too much to bet these games, so there will be only one pick. It's a matchup between 2 very hot teams. LA Kings, I think, has won 6 games in a row, Minnesota 5, and they are meeting in St. Paul. Both teams are building their game through the defense. They have a good goaltending. Kaapo Kähkönen has taken the number 1 goalie spot in Minnesota, and in LA, both Pedersen and Quick have performed very well. Quick has been up and down, but recently has returned to level where he was when this team was Stanley Cup champion in last decade. So under 5.5 goals, minus 108 odds is our lone pick tonight.
Yeah, should be a very interesting matchup with the teams that have been winning a lot lately. Of course, facing the same opponents night after night is a bit different situation. These two have not played recently. They did play long time ago. 4-0 Kings won last time these two met. It was about 10 days ago. So not that familiar setting. Both teams played since quite a lot of games. Minnesota, of course, scored 6 goals in their last 2 games, but both of them probably, I'd say, a little bit undeserved in the end of the game goals, especially against Colorado, where they were leading 3-2 heading into third period, and then Colorado was looking for the equalizer with a lot of risk. So Minnesota was able to counter that and score the goal. So I think both teams, like you said, are building through the defense, have really reliable goaltending, not a lot of heavy scoring wingers or centermen on the ice. So low scoring game in all respects, and quite a good odds, minus 108 for this under 5.5 goals.
Naturally, there are 2 other games as well, and there is some value, but the value is maybe very low, especially Colorado goes to Arizona. The odds currently look somewhere around minus 165 or so. Not very good, even though some minor value there based on the simulations. And Colorado has struggled recently. Arizona is a sturdy team that cannot be counted out, even though they are 3-0 behind. And I think Anaheim knows this very well when they lost twice in a row for this kind of 3-0 leading position. And then Boston continues their trip in New York. Last night, humiliation against the Islanders must require some activities in coaching, and I'm pretty sure that they will bounce back against the Rangers. That simulation provides some minor value, but Boston is clear favorite here.
Yeah, it's a tough game to predict. Of course, it might be that Boston maybe showed some fatigue last night in the third period, a little bit frustrated, of course, going down that much. But knowing that team, how competitive it is, it's a hard night for New York Rangers to repeat what the Islanders did last night, especially because Rangers, like we've been talking all season, have not performed the way that we've been expecting, and many have expected. Of course, still Panarin out, Truba out, Kakko out, so a couple of very important absentees as well.
Yeah, but when there's not too many games tonight, we'll go through a little bit season futures and what is the current prediction for the playoff teams based on our simulations. So if we start from the Central Division, currently in standings there is a Florida, Tampa, Chicago and Carolina with different amount of games played, but these are quite clear top 4 teams. How about simulations, how that 4-team pack is predicted to finish the season?
In the simulations, it is exactly the same 4 teams making it to the postseason. The order is a little bit different. As we expected, Tampa Bay will be the top team of this division according to simulations quite clearly as well. Then Carolina is the closest challenger, but then the 3 teams fighting for the last 2 playoff spots, Chicago, Florida, and Dallas is still there. Dallas Stars a little bit up and down team as well, as we've seen, lost to Florida last night after a really good effort in the first 2 periods, but then went down 3 goals in the end and lost that game. So it's a very even fight between the Chicago, Florida, and Dallas. But those 2 teams, Tampa Bay and Carolina, are clear favorites in this division still.
Then in East Division, current standings, Boston, Washington, New York Islanders and Philadelphia Flyers. Flyers played only 16 games, Boston 17, while Washington and Islanders have played 19, followed by Pittsburgh with the same points with Philadelphia and 1 game less than Washington and Islanders. So do you think this 5-team will sort out 4 playoffs spots by end of the season?
It does look that way according to the simulations. Like we've been saying from beginning of the season, this division is the tightest, the closest of them all. Actually now looking at the whole season simulations, all of the teams are within 10 points. If you take a look at the forecasted points, so 10 points only, that's 5 wins. In this sort of season, it's nothing and it can turn really fast. So even Buffalo, who is now predicted to be the last one in this division, collects 56 points, while Washington, who is predicted to take the throne of this division, has a little bit over 66 points. So very close. And that means also these top 4 teams at the moment, Capitals, Bruins, Penguins, and Flyers, are all within 4 points. And then you add New York Islanders to the mix, who is behind 1 point only. So this is all very open. And of course, now at the moment, when you have 2 or 3 games less than the teams above you, that's changing the order a lot. So very interesting division. We still think that the big teams, Capitals, Bruins, Penguins, will make the playoffs. We did predict Penguins to struggle, but they played quite well. Of course, last night was an off night against Washington, but in the long run, these things even out, and Penguins are looking quite competitive as well. But New York Islanders, Philadelphia Flyers seem to be the teams that are fighting for the 4th playoff spot in these simulations, and they are within 1 point of each other.
The next one in our list, Scotia North Division. There currently Toronto is leading. Edmonton is 4 points behind, played 1 game more than Toronto. And then 3 points after Edmonton is Winnipeg, that has played 3 games less than Edmonton. It looks like these 3 teams are pulling away from Montreal, Calgary, Vancouver and Ottawa, but is that the status when regular season has been completed?
Yeah, this is the division that we actually have the exact same prediction as the situation is now, so they can just stop playing and start to prepare for the playoffs now. But yeah, Toronto is leading in the simulations as well. Edmonton, good number 2, then a little bit of a drop, and Winnipeg Jets is the 3rd one, quite with some margin to the 4th team, that is currently Montreal Canadiens. But as we've seen, they've been struggling a bit. Of course, maybe to their advantage. Also, Calgary and Vancouver have played pretty bad. Ottawa is on the rise, so let's see what happens there. In the simulations, Montreal Canadiens are within 1 point to Calgary Flames. So Montreal and Calgary seem to be the two teams that are fighting for the fourth spot. But these Maple Leafs, Oilers, and Jets are quite clear favorites to go to the postseason.
And then last one, Honda West Division. There currently the lead is taken by Vegas, that we also predicted at the beginning of the season to be one of the top teams there, followed by St. Louis. Then a bit surprisingly, LA and Arizona are the next teams, but Minnesota is 5th, Colorado 6th right now, have played 2 to 3 games less than LA, and Arizona 4 games less than St. Louis. And this whole division from top to bottom are within 7 points. So right now it's quite tight, surprisingly tight maybe. But what kind of result simulations will show when regular season is played?
Yeah, the simulations are really stubborn on this division. They are not allowing the actual standings affect how the games seem to play out. So we do have Colorado Avalanche still beating any other team and winning the division by quite a clear margin. They do need to start winning now. They can't wait a lot longer, because even if they have a couple of games less than the top teams of the league, except for Vegas, they need the points. So they've been really disappointing for a couple of games now. So they have to start scoring. They have to start playing better, simply put. But then surprisingly, we do have Minnesota as the second in this division. Of course, they've played extremely well as of late after the long break, so it might skew the simulations a little bit. But they have been surprisingly good, and they are a hard team to beat. There is no superstar players. There is not a lot of heavy scoring players. It does look like a team that is really well balanced, but maybe lacking a little bit of this sort of a thing, that X factor that you would need to beat the likes of Colorado, Vegas, and St. Louis. But they've done pretty well so far. So interesting team to follow. They are now in the predictions second, but very close, challenged by St. Louis Blues, the third, and then the fourth team now is Vegas Golden Knights, who are leading the division in real life. But these three teams, Wild, Blues, and Golden Knights, are within 1 point again in this season forecast. So it's all open for those teams. But Wild is likely to take the playoff spot, which is already an achievement for that team. And then going down the line is just pretty much out of the picture. Kings, Coyotes, Sharks, and Ducks. Not a lot of chance. There is quite a big divide between the playoff-bound teams and the rest.
I remember that before the season we predicted these 4 teams to be the playoff teams in the West. So Machine thinks the same way as well. There hasn't been too many changes, even though teams like LA Kings have now pulled 6 victories in a row and look to be red hot, at least right now.
Yeah, that's interesting. Interesting how the simulations are deeming these teams to be exactly the same as they were in the preseason, while a lot of the other ones have changed according to the results. But there is some sort of system to this chaos, so it might be that these teams have actually played better than the results have shown, the top teams especially. So that might be behind all of this. So there is some sort of reasoning in this.
Sounds interesting. Let's see how the season turns out, and we'll revert back to these season predictions again next week. But tonight we'll check these 3 games, especially the LA Kings Minnesota game that will go under, but hopefully it's entertaining game between 2 red hot teams.
I'm okay with very, very boring 1-1. That's fine.
We'll see you tomorrow.
See you tomorrow.